and welcome to my session on Women in Experimentation, What Holds Us Back. Before I dive in, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am in the digital optimization team at Mayo Clinic, and previously I have led experimentation efforts at Fender and Stamps.com. I was a jury member for the Experimentation Culture Awards in 2021. I also blog on all things experimentation on Medium. And finally, I publish the weekly buzz for experimentation. I'd love to connect with you, so find me on LinkedIn, Medium, and you have my email address here as well. This session is for women in experimentation and those working with them. And the inspiration for exploring this topic came when I was on the Experimentation Culture Awards 2021 jury. Only 4 out of 15 finalists were female. So there were discussions around how to have a more diverse representation in future. Coincidentally, at the time, I was also reading Playing Big, a book by Tara Moore. And the book really got me thinking that addressing how we approach our work as experimenters, we as women, it may be more effective than getting special preference or reservations as a way for encouraging us to submit our nominations for awards or even speaking at conferences. So in this session, I will be covering some of these habits which could potentially be holding us women back. You may or may not relate to these, but the hope is that this session helps you understand others that you're working with. Especially if you are managing women, this session will help you identify patterns that make women play smaller. The first one is fear. How many times have you been gripped by paralyzing fear before presenting a bold idea? Chances are one too many times. Pounding heart, sweaty palms, those are body's reactions to a perceived threat which helped us survive in prehistoric times. Triggered fight or flight. But in today's day and age, is this an appropriate reaction when we are placed in uncomfortable situations? And uncomfortable situations that involve some fear of rejection. Not quite, it's definitely an overreaction. Tara Moore, in her book, talks about the Hebrew Bible defining 2 types of fear. The first one is Pahar, which is the overreactionary fear for the worst outcome, which activates escape or avoidance. Notice the words, overreactionary fear for the worst outcome, activating escape or avoidance. The second type of fear is yira. And yira is the fear we feel when we suddenly find ourselves inhabiting a larger space than we are used to. Again, notice the phrase, inhabiting a larger space. There is a sense of opportunity and excitement mixed into this type of fear. So how does this apply to experimentation? Many times, we as experimenters do inhabit a larger space than we are used to. It could be that we are presenting some bold ideas and opportunities, offering a fresh perspective, or even shining light on a problem that no one had discovered earlier. We also possess a deep understanding of customers, drawing on multiple data sources, whether qualitative research, quantitative data, or even past testing results. We also bring objectivity to discussions by staying focused and keeping others focused on the customer and business problem at hand, rather than giving into unbridled creativity. So what do? Learn to embrace yara and quiet pahar. Learn to distinguish between the 2 fears. Learn to recognize yara and get comfortable with that feeling of playing big. Quiet pahar by questioning what do you really fear and why. Habits. A question that irked me for a while has been, why is it that girls outperform boys in school, but the equation flips in the corporate world? And in her book, Tara Moore points to some unhelpful habits we pick up along the way as a way to possibly explain this. And I'll go into some of them that I found particularly relevant to this topic. Pleasing authority figures. We learn how to please authority figures such as our teachers. We learn to give them what they want to get good grades, which works very well in school. However, we are not incentivized to challenge and influence their opinions. In experimentation, this habit manifests into running ideas that hippos or loudest voices in the room support. And while you do want to engage your stakeholders, you still have a job to do. And chances are that many times we also fail to recognize our own authority on a topic. Over preparation. Working hard in preparation is the main strategy for doing well. That's what we learn. So we prepare and over prepare, dotting our I's and crossing our T's. We also develop this need or this obsession to have all the answers. We tend to focus outside for answers, always needing more information, more research, more education. What this does is it slows us down as we waste precious time perfecting our analysis. This habit shows up when we spend endless hours building a rock solid case for testing something or reviewing emails before sending. Humility is celebrated. We learn to let our work do the talking instead of seeking visibility and recognition. I've heard countless women talk about loving what they do, but not quite enjoying presenting or getting in the limelight. We don't talk about our accomplishments, and then we don't feel our work is worthy of recognition. We're always quick to give credit to everyone else but ourselves. And probably this explains why there were no women finalists in the individual category of the Experimentation Culture Awards. All of the women finalists were in the teams category. If this, then that. We tend to tell ourselves limiting stories about sequencing. That we have to follow a certain path. There are no shortcuts to success. And this habit shows up in the context of experimentation when we don't evangelize or talk about our experimentation program at our organizations till we have some wins under our belt. So what do? Spend time on influencing and changing opinions. Instead of focusing all your time on preparing, spend some time on what your goal is from a meeting or a presentation and the best way to achieve it. Take some time to figure out who you need to influence and what matters to them. This will help you work effectively with hippos and speak their language. Recognize when you're wasting time over preparing or going down the data rabbit hole. Ask yourself, is that the best use of your time? Or is it just better to send that email out or run that experiment or have that meeting? Collaborate and reach out for help. Instead of focusing on having all the answers, can you collaborate and find ambassadors? Can you co-present with other teams? Can you have a product manager you're working with co-evangelize experimentation to other product teams? I have blogged about social reinforcement, aka complex contagion, to really help experimentation take root at your organization. It helps to get other voices involved. Own your accomplishments and learn to talk about them. Switch from just working to working plus visibility. However, do this in a manner which feels comfortable to you. Maybe build a network of colleagues who work on shining light on each other's work. I would also recommend attending an I Am Remarkable workshop, which is a Google initiative for empowering women and other underrepresented groups to celebrate their achievements in the workplace. Finally, start discussing your half-baked ideas. Stop overcomplicating and endlessly polishing ideas. If you identified an optimization opportunity, have an idea, start discussing it with others and get their thoughts. Even if you think it's not ready for showtime. Chances are, actually, that someone somewhere identified the same issue a long time back and it just slipped through the cracks. So when you resurrect the discussion, you'll actually get a lot of supporters and you'll actually get somewhere. Communication. Have you found yourselves rushing through what you have to say, adding unnecessary apologies, or even dumbing down and saying something in a very, very nice way? Many times we relinquish our power by communicating very weakly. This could be due to concerns about sounding too aggressive or arrogant, avoiding conflicts, or simply being nervous. As mentioned earlier, we also prioritize likability and pleasing people. Communicating effectively is key to experimentation. And over the next few slides, I'm going to go over ways we marginalize our words and what to do about that. Rushing. We often rush so as to not take too much time and space. And to the listener, we just sound nervous or like what we have to say isn't worth much time. What do you do about that? Slow down and use pauses effectively. Pause between your sentences or speak at a slower pace to convey confidence and authority. You are in the room or on that email thread for a reason. So own that. Shrinkers. We often use shrinkers like just, actually, and almost, and we say things like, I just think, I actually disagree, I almost want to suggest. And what this does is it conveys that we are unsure and we are actually surprised that what we have to say, that we have something to say. What do? Stop using them. Kelly Wortham from Test and Learn community recommends using a Gmail plugin called Just Not Sorry that helps identify when these shrinkers slip in. Apologies. We use unnecessary apologies such as sorry to bother you, but sorry if this is a silly question, but. And we often do this because we are worried that if we don't use these words, we'll sound aggressive or harsh or not nice. What do? Simply stop using them and say what you have to. If you think you sound aggressive without them, then Tara Moore suggests adding humor and warmth instead. Preempting criticism. Many times we also imply incoherence by saying things like, does that make sense? Am I making sense? And a lot of times we say that because we really want to make sure we are understood, or it's a way for us to invite discussion. But many times we also do this to protect ourselves from being told, that made no sense, by suggesting ourselves that maybe we were actually incoherent. And what do you do about that? Instead, say something like, I look forward to hearing your thoughts, or let me know if you have any questions about this. So there are other ways to ask questions or invite discussion rather than implying incoherence. We tend to use undermining qualifiers like, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but I'm no expert in this. You clearly know more about this than I do. Again, we use this a lot when we are presenting test ideas because we expect our stakeholders to know more about their audience and so on and so forth. Again, delete these qualifiers and just say what you have to say. To summarize, recognize and embrace your quiet pahar. Focus on influencing and changing opinions. Try other strategies besides preparation for succeeding, some of the strategies that we discussed in this session. Switch from just working to working plus visibility. Stop wasting time on endless polishing and take the leap. And finally, communicate with strength. It will take practice to break away from these ingrained habits. But the first step is awareness. Personally, for me, I realized that I was in the constantly over preparation and endlessly polishing trap. And over the last few months, just that awareness has helped me cut down on that habit. I've also started talking about the ideas and opportunities I found, and I've started collaborating more with people. It was also a leap for me to decide to speak on this topic. Am I an authority on gender-based issues? No. But I felt that maybe it was important for me to add my voice and start the conversation. Finally, I have also become more mindful of my communication habits, definitely trying to remove shrinkers from my communication whenever I spot them. But all this is a work in progress and will be for times to come. So what can you do? Well, I would urge that you print the communications checklist on taramore.com/pb book materials. Use Just Not Sorry Gmail plugin, and before you send out that email or even decide on what you'd like to say, maybe run it through this plugin and get rid of some of the shrinkers and the other communication habits that are not very helpful. Read Playing Big by Tara Moore. It's available on Audible, or if you are an avid reader, then it's an easy read. Attend an I Am Remarkable workshop. It's something that you can Google and find. It's online and it's a super 90-minute session. So very easy to attend. Share this session with someone else you think will benefit. And finally, let's continue the conversation and share your perspective on LinkedIn by using the hashtag Women in Experimentation. I want to thank Kelly Wortham and Neha Surana from Test and Learn community and my colleague Danielle Gunraj for their thoughtful feedback which helped improve this session. I hope you take something away from this, and thank you so much for your time.